Onward to victory.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them and outside them. And if we get them on the run once, we're going to keep them on the run. And we'll act the plan unless our secondary comes up too close. But don't forget, man, we're going to get them on the run. We're going to go. Then we are to the stop. And then we go like goal line. Don't forget, man, today, we're going to win. They can't lick it.
All right, Irish fans, this is Alex Painter from Onward to Victory, a Notre Dame football podcast, coming at you with a slice of a little something different today. Last episode, I had kind of talked about possibly doing a podcast version of a tour of campus and possibly some off-campus sites as well. So given that many of us are kind of at home or maybe just going to work and not doing much other travel, rightfully so, I figure maybe this is a good time to debut a video, kind of a different thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on a little journey around 5 of my favorite underrated Notre Dame football sites around South Bend and the South Bend area. So here we go. Number 1, without much of a surprise, is Auggies locker room. So this is actually located just about a quarter mile from campus at 2036 South Bend Avenue. And yeah, we have some history with Auggies here at the show. Aside from the fact that I just love Auggies, I love visiting, we've recorded 2 episodes at Auggies, and you can buy pretty much anything. You can kind of see from the pictures, it is wall-to-wall Notre Dame stuff. And Auggies been there since July 1st, 2007. So again, great opportunity to take home a piece of Notre Dame history with you. And Auggie, as you see, he's pictured here, he is about as much of a gentleman and a scholar for Notre Dame football as you will meet. And he makes it, again, so accessible to anyone who comes through the door. So number 1 is Auggies locker room. These aren't in any particular order, but they got to get started somewhere. And so number 1, Auggies locker room. Number 2, underrated Notre Dame's football sites around South Bend is St. Casimir Catholic Church. Now, why is a Catholic church on the list? Well, first of all, it's beautiful. If you ever have the opportunity to go visit it, it is absolutely beautiful. But, however, this particular church had a very critical role in the movie Rudy. So some of you may recall that very heartbreaking scene of when Rudy's best friend Pete dies in the accident at the mill, which spurs Rudy to go to South Bend. So Pete's funeral, both the exterior and the interior scenes, are filmed at St. Casimir, including when Rudy has that conversation with his girlfriend, outside the actual sanctuary part of the church, where he says, yes, it's now or never for me to go to South Bend. Very, very cool church, very beautiful, very picturesque, as you can kind of see. So number 2 is the St. Casimir Catholic Church, home of some of the shooting scenes from the movie, the famous Notre Dame movie, Rudy. So number 3 is actually the Soldier and Sailors Monument in Elkhart, Indiana. So what does this have to do with Notre Dame football? Actually, very little, but we did do an episode here on the show about Notre Dame and the Civil War, and we talked about Private Frank Baldwin, who was a first year at Notre Dame and dropped out of the university to go enlist in the Union Army. And so, unfortunately, Lieutenant Baldwin, he was only 18 years old and had rose to the rank from private to lieutenant in less than 2 years. He was killed in battle at the Battle of Stones River on New Year's Eve, 1862. Again, just 18 years old. But the monument was erected in the 1880s by his father, Silas Baldwin. But as you can see, the monument used to be in the right Main Street, but now you can find it at the Grace Lawn Cemetery where Baldwin is buried. So again, less of a football site, but certainly gets a mention because of its history with the show. Number 4 are Canute Rockne sites around South Bend. So, of course, Coach Canute Rockne, very, very famous college football coach, Notre Dame football coach, perhaps one of the best college football coaches in history. So, you can see his house from the outside anyways. I don't think you can go inside, but the house sits at 1417 Wayne Street in South Bend. So it was built in 1929. Inside is beautiful. You can kind of get a more in-depth look at it on the internet. But you can see the house where Coach Knut Rockne was living when he was killed in the plane crash in 1931. So again, it's at 1417 Wayne Street. If you go out to the Highland Cemetery, you can visit the Rockne Memorial out there pictured, as well as Rockne's grave. So you can go visit, leave a souvenir or whatever, have a memento on the gravestone if you'd like. He's buried in a family plot next to a couple family members. And so again, number 4 are Rockne sites around South Bend, including the home where the coach lived, as well as his final resting place. All right, so number 5 on the list of top underrated Notre Dame football sites around South Bend and the greater area is the South Bend Chocolate Cafe. Yes, this is not a typo. So around this plot, particularly where this picture you can see around this little plaza here, and right there next to the gridiron, these two properties sit adjacent to each other, is the former home of Hully and Mike's, an old pool hall, saloon, speakeasy, that a certain George Gipp used to hang out and spend quite a bit of time. And Hully and Mike, of course, were huge Notre Dame boosters, and so Gipp would hang out there a lot, spend probably more time in the pool hall than he did on campus. But as you can see, they also were a big sponsor. Oh, they also sold cigars, who could forget that, of Notre Dame football. They were huge backers, and so this pocket schedule, I guess the precursor to a pocket schedule, was released for the 1923 season. But as you can see, the Hully and Mike's logo at the bottom at 112 South Michigan Street. So again, if you're in this little area next to the South Bend Chocolate Cafe, which I gotta recommend the South Bend Chocolate Company in the same breath, but you'll be standing on the rough approximate spot as where Hully and Mike stood for a number of decades. And again, a hot spot that was frequented by George Gipp and other Notre Dame greats. So I hope you enjoyed that. So that was Onward to Victory's top underrated Notre Dame football sites. And as always, I am your host, Alex Painter. Until next time, go Irish!